Hey everyone, welcome to Alpha Insights. I'm Asher, and this is Hope.
Hi all, great to have you with us. And hey, if you have questions while you listen, drop them at stockalpha.ai.
Right, let's jump in. Today we're talking about a company that thinks data centers should run on light. Literally. POET has been building a photonics play that aims to manufacture optics like semiconductors.
Exactly. The short story is, as artificial intelligence scales, moving data between processors has become the hard problem. And optics, not copper, is the solution the industry is racing to adopt.
To put it in plain terms, chips got faster. But if you can't feed them data without burning power or hitting bandwidth limits, nothing else matters. So companies are shortening electrical paths and putting optics right next to the switch or accelerator die.
Right, and when the big networking suppliers start moving that way, the ecosystem follows. The market for these co-packaged optics is projected to grow really fast. Think tens of billions now, and potentially over 100 billion in the next decade.
Exactly. Now, what POET actually makes is their optical interposer, a wafer-scale platform that puts electronic and photonic parts together on one chip. No wire bonds, monolithic passive components, and wafer-scale assembly, so it can scale like semiconductors.
Which is important because hand-assembled optics struggle with yield and cost. POET's pitch is manufacturing photonics the way the chip world does it. More repeatable, cheaper at scale, and compatible with multiple form factors, from 800 gigabit up to 1.6 terabit and beyond.
The engineering bits matter. By integrating multiplexers, waveguides, mirrors, and more on the same interposer, they avoid parasitics and reliability issues that hand-assembled modules can suffer from.
And that makes them form factor agnostic. They can serve pluggable modules, near-packaged optics, or co-packaged optics, whichever route a customer chooses as they migrate.
Okay, commercial traction. For years, critics said POET had tech, but not enough customers. That's changing. They announced a big supply and joint development agreement with a marquee customer, an initial purchase order of $50 million with a framework that management says could exceed $500 million over several years.
When your whole revenue the previous year was about $1 million, a $50 million initial order is a meaningful step toward revenue visibility. They also have a number of partnerships, a 1.6 terabit transceiver in development, collaborations with big optoelectronic suppliers, and other co-development projects.
They guided to ship more than 30,000 optical engine modules in the current year, with engineering samples for 800 gigabit and 1.6 terabit by year-end, and volume production aimed for the following year.
And at their recent annual meeting, they said they have over 10 active customer engagements that combined could exceed $100 million in future annual revenue. That's the shift from slideware to a pipeline with a number attached.
It's always nicer when the pipeline has dollar signs next to it.
Totally. Now, the other product that folks are watching is Blazar, their external cavity laser. The idea is to create high-power, multi-wavelength light sources at wafer scale to address a real supply shortage in lasers for AI networks.
Yeah, laser supply is a real constraint. The incumbents are capacity limited, and AI buyers have been prepaying for allocations. Blazar's architecture puts wavelength selection on the interposer rather than the gain chip, which could improve yield and scale.
Management says large-scale deployment for Blazar is a later decade story, but it's meaningful optionality. A way to attack an industry-wide bottleneck that could add value beyond the core interposer engines.
Funding matters here. POET raised $830 million in equity over the past year, with potential for up to another $661 million if warrants are exercised. There was also a $400 million direct offering to a single institutional investor.
That capital changes the picture. They told shareholders they're allocating about $50 million in the second half of the year to buy manufacturing equipment and are targeting capacity of up to 1 million units per month by the end of next year.
They're also beefing up operations, hiring a seasoned COO to stand up high-volume manufacturing in Penang, Malaysia, and planning to add roughly 50 employees to a global headcount of about 115. Execution is all about people and process.
But we can't ignore the risks. POET is still pre-scale. First quarter revenue was about $500,000. Full-year revenue last year was roughly $1 million, and reported net losses have been around $63 million. Cash burn and conversion of partnerships into shipped, repeatable revenue are the big execution hurdles.
Right. Also, dilution. They've got about 172.6 million shares outstanding and warrants that could bring in more capital, but also more share issuance if exercised. And then there's the usual spectre of execution delays, qualification problems, and fierce competition from larger incumbents and in-house hyperscaler efforts.
There's also active litigation. A securities class action with allegations around disclosures and an executive's obligations. Historically, those suits rarely succeed, but it's another source of uncertainty for investors to factor in.
So how would you frame this, Hope? High conviction? High variance?
Yes, the bull case is straightforward. A patented wafer-scale approach to photonics, a roadmap that spans from 800 gigabit to 3.2 terabit and multiple form factors. Marquee partnerships, including a sizable initial supply order, a light source product that attacks a supply shortage, and meaningful capital to build capacity. But everything hinges on execution and conversion to revenue.
Exactly. Keep an eye on a few concrete catalysts. The re-domicile vote they're pursuing to make US institutional investment easier. Delivery of engineering samples for 800 gigabit and 1.6 terabit. The manufacturing ramp in Malaysia. Conversion of that initial large order and the broader pipeline into recognized revenue, and how cash burn tracks against the capital raised.
Those are real measurable bars. Clear them, and the gap between current valuation and opportunity could shrink quickly. Miss them, and it stays a high-variance story.
Quick reactions.
Interesting tech. Big market. Execution is everything.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Honestly, I was a bit surprised by how much capital they pulled together.
All right, time to wrap up. Hope, want to sum it with me?
Sure. POET sits at the intersection of AI-driven demand for optical bandwidth and a semiconductor-style manufacturing approach to photonics. They've moved from tech demos to a named commercial pipeline and have meaningful capital to scale. But they remain pre-scale and face execution, dilution, legal, and competitive risks.
So, key takeaway. The market for optical interconnect is huge and growing fast. POET has a differentiated manufacturing angle and early commercial traction. But everything depends on sample deliveries, production ramp, and converting partnerships into revenue. Not investment advice, just market context.
Right. Analysts note the setup is high conviction if you believe execution will follow. It's high variance, and due diligence matters.
Got questions about anything we covered? We'd love to dig deeper.
Head over to stockalpha.ai. You can ask us anything in the Q&A, and we'll answer live. And while you're there, check out more market content.